So I have a question for you. What makes you believe that something is true? Now you might think that's an easy question, but I want you to think about it a little bit more. Your gut reaction might be, well, facts convince me that something is true, or science convinces me that something is true. Today we're going to be joining Pastor Eric as he dives into what really convinces us of what is true, and I think you're going to be surprised. I'm also super excited to share with you the first teaser of what to expect for Easter here at SMCC. Welcome to SMCC Online.
I tasted the world, seen more than enough. Its promise is fleeting. Of water and wine I emptied the cup and found myself wanting. But there is a well that never runs dry, the water of life, the blood of the vine. And all I know is everything I have means nothing. Jesus, if you're not my one thing, everything I need right now, all I need is you right now. All I need is you right now. Just one thing I ask, just one thing I ask, and this I will seek, if only to know you, to be where you are and go where you lead. My God, I will follow. The things of this world I've counted as lost. I lay it all down to take up this cross. And all I know is everything I have means nothing. Jesus, if you're not my one thing, everything in me right now, and all I want is everything you are in nothing. Jesus, if you're not my one thing, everything to me right now. And I sing, whoa, whoa. I want nothing but to know you and to be with you, my God. And I sing, whoa, and with everything within me, I will worship you, my God. And all I know is everything I have means nothing. Jesus, if you're not my one thing, everything I need right now, all I need is you right now. Jesus, we've tasted the world and all that it has to offer, but nothing can satisfy us like you can, God. John 4:14, it says, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. The water I give them will become in them a spring of water that's welling up to eternal life. So Jesus, we put our best foot forward today, putting you first in our lives. 'Cause all I know is everything I have means nothing. Jesus, if you're not my one thing, everything I need right now, you're all I want, and all I want is everything you are in nothing. Jesus, if you're not my one thing, everything to me right now. Oh, and I sing, whoa, whoa. I want nothing but to know you and to be with you, my God. And I sing, whoa, whoa. And with everything within me, I will worship you, my God. And I sing, whoa, whoa. And with everything within me, I will worship you, my God. And I sing, whoa, whoa. I want nothing but to know you and to be with you, my God.
And there you have it, the first sneak peek of what to expect for Easter here at SMCC. You can also visit smccutah.org/Easter for more information on times and locations. And with that, I want to take a moment and thank the hundreds of you that support SMCC financially. Because you've made the commitment to trust God with your finances here at SMCC, we're able to create environments where thousands of people are going to hear about Jesus. And from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for enabling us to do that. If you want to learn more about giving at SMCC, you can visit smccutah.org/give for more information. You'll also find information and details about donating cryptocurrency. Now let's join Pastor Eric and our 5 locations as he wraps up our series, Revolutions.
Hey, well, welcome back to the 5th and final part of a series that we have been calling Revolutions. This series has been all about how to overthrow oppressive thinking in our lives. And I'm Eric, one of the pastors here. Big welcome to everybody in South Jordan today. I'm really excited because for the first time in 7 years, I will be at your campus on Easter morning. So I hope you are there in the building as we celebrate the resurrection. Now, I was on TikTok a few months back. Stop judging me. I was on TikTok, and if you don't know what TikTok is, it's one of these apps where young people are gathered around for entertainment. And, I like to know what young people are thinking, and I like to know where our culture is headed. So I decided to put out a question to TikTok And it's a question I want to put out to you this morning. The question was this: if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? How would you answer that question? So I put it out to the TikTok world, and I was shocked by the answer. The overwhelming response to that question was the answer, no. Now, I was surprised because I thought that we should follow truth wherever it would lead. I thought facts are our friends, that evidence matters, and so if something is true, we should embrace it as such. But not so much anymore. A recent Gallup poll was done, and it found this: 66% of Americans do not believe in absolute truth. There is no absolute truth, absolute standard for reality. I thought this was interesting. This means that for 66% of Americans, 2 out of every 3 people, whatever it is that they believe, there's no evidence, no data, no logic, no reason, no argument that could change their minds. We are officially a post-truth culture. And if you're wondering what post-truth means, Oxford Dictionary put it out like this to define it. It was their word of the year in 2016. Here's what post-truth is relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. Here's what that means. Facts don't always change people's minds anymore. We are a post-truth culture. Facts don't always change people's minds anymore, and that's a fact. Let that just sink in. Now, there's something about a post-truth culture that I find very fascinating. Post-truth culture meaning what we just read, that objective facts are less influential than other things in changing people's minds and setting a course for their beliefs. What I find so interesting is that in a post-truth culture, contradiction doesn't bother people. You can live with contradictory beliefs in your life and think nothing of it. It just doesn't matter. You can hold to this belief, which contradicts this belief contradicts this belief, and it's okay. Those beliefs can live within people without a problem. But I've been thinking about that approach quite a bit. I mean, we all know to some degree that reality, truth, it will get you. It will creep up. It will bite you. It will slap you. It will smack you. It will get you. Reality will come for you someday. And I think even if you're a post-truth person where facts don't really matter and you hold contradictory beliefs, you know reality will get you. This is why you wear your seatbelt when you drive. This is why you brush your teeth. This is why you pay your bills. This is why perhaps you go to see the doctor, because reality will get you if you don't. Reality will get you, which means that to some degree, even if you say facts don't matter, you know that truth does, because reality matters. It will get you. Now, I've been thinking about this, and I just wanted to define what I mean by truth. And it is built into this idea of reality. Here's my definition of truth, so we're all on the same page today. Truth is that which corresponds to reality. It's the way things actually are. Something is true if it says what is, and something is false if it says what isn't. This is what truth is all about. Truth is that which corresponds to reality. Now, let's back up a couple thousand years. Jesus said 2 things about truth that have stuck with people and gripped people for centuries. He said 2 things about truth that I want to share with you because I think they matter in this truth conversation. Look at this. Jesus answered, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." I'm the truth, he said, meaning I determine what's real and I define what's real. I am the truth. Now, in a post-truth culture, people will often say this to truth claims. That's so exclusive. The truth is exclusive. And if you're making an exclusive claim about reality or another person, that's like a power play. It seems like you're putting yourself above somebody else. And I agree with that. That is what truth does. Now, if someone were to say back to me, "Eric, come on, man, there's no truth." Well, isn't that a truth claim too? They're saying that about me. And isn't that claim that there is no truth a power play, an exclusive claim over me? Look, it doesn't matter which side you fall on. Truth is exclusive, and it is a power play. The question is, does truth exist? Jesus then would say this in John as well. To the Jews who had believed in him, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching, you're really my disciples, then you will know the truth. Hold to my teaching, you'll know the truth. And look at what happens next. The truth will set you free. The truth will set you free. In a post-truth culture, people want to be free. And so they think if I reject truth, I will be more free. Jesus' approach was just the opposite. When you believe and obey my truth, you will be most free. Isn't that fascinating? So in a post-truth world, people are debating whether truth exists. But here's what I think is so fascinating about that. Any attempt to prove it true that there is no truth only proves that there is truth. Now, hang with me because I know that sounded a little funky, that sounds a little crazy. Let me unpack it. If I were to attempt to prove to you with evidence, data, reason, and logic that there was no truth, I would be only affirming the opposite, that there was truth. If I could prove it true that truth didn't exist, I would actually be proving that truth does exist. It would be like this. Imagine someone came up to you and said, look, I can't speak a word of English. And they said it in English. Number one, that'd be a weird day. But number two, that would be a self-defeating statement. Because the thing they are trying to say, they are actually proving doesn't exist by what they are saying. That is what a self-defeating statement does. And when someone says there is no truth, as if that's a truth claim for everybody, that too is a self-defeating statement. So when you try to refute truth, you actually prove that there is truth. My point is this. If we are people who say there is no truth, we still smuggle in a worldview that holds to reality, that holds to truth that we actually do believe. So even post-truth people, to some degree, believe there is reality out there that you must be accountable to. So how do we get here? That's what I want to talk about next. I mean, how did we arrive at this post-truth place? Well, I think this is how we got here. I want to put this on the screen so you can see it. It's not that truth doesn't matter at all. It's just that there are other things that matter more. See, in a post-truth culture, I think people know reality matters, truth matters. It's not that it doesn't matter at all. It's just that there are other things in our world that matter more to us than facts, that matter more to us than truth. And I think we could break it down into two simple categories. Those two things that matter more to us than truth are these two things: pleasure and people. Pleasure and people. See, humans need a rather accurate view of the world to exist in this world. Do you know how I know that? Because if you were to deny truth at every turn and you were to deny reality at every turn, guess what? It would only be a matter of moments, perhaps days, before you were dead. So if you are still alive, you are aligning yourself to the way the world is, you are aligning yourself to reality. You cannot walk away from truth altogether, because if you were to do that, you would wind up dead. We have to align with how reality is to live a real life. So humans need an accurate understanding of how the world is to exist in this world. However, truth and accuracy just aren't the only things that are important to us, important to the human mind. People are important to us. We are desperate to be accepted by people we respect. We are desperate to belong with our peers. A tribe or a community is so important to people and so important to a post-truth culture. People can be the thing that is more important to us than facts. We want to fit in, we want to bond with others, we want to connect, we want respect, we want approval. The other thing that can be so important in our lives is simply pleasure. We want what's easy, we want what's expedient, we want what's convenient. And sometimes because of that, we will look away from facts to keep ourselves inside of the pleasurable state we find ourselves in. Now, there's a professor at Harvard, a psychologist and philosopher, who describes our desire to be accepted with a tribe more than our desire to accept facts. Look what this professor says. He says, people are embraced or condemned according to their beliefs. So one function of the mind may be to hold beliefs that bring the belief holder the greatest number of allies, protectors, or disciples. We keep beliefs that keep us close with as many people as possible, rather than beliefs that are most likely to be true. What he's saying is this: sometimes looking good to the right people, it's more important to us than believing what's true. Sometimes looking good with the right person is more important to us than rejecting truth. Sometimes we trust people we like more than the experts. Sometimes celebrities are more influential in our lives when they have no business being influential. Why? Because our tribe and our community is far more important to us than the facts around us. We don't always believe things because they're correct. We often just believe things because they are popular. And this is why we have become a post-truth culture. This is the people approach, but there's also the pleasure approach. Sometimes ignorance truly is bliss. And if I can look away from some facts that I don't want to pay attention to or deal with, I can stay in my pleasurable state. And I've done this. Maybe you've done this. Have you ever needed to log into your bank account to check on some numbers, but you felt like you just couldn't, and you were putting it off and putting it off and putting it off because the facts of what was in the bank account would challenge the pleasure that you were feeling, and so you'd rather not look? Has this happened to you? I've done this so many times in my life where I chose pleasure over facts. This has happened. You ever known you needed to go to the doctors because something was wrong, but you didn't want to go because the doctor would drill down on the root of the issue and that would be painful to some degree? If you've ever done that, you know what it's like to go with pleasure over truth. This happens in our lives. So what this reminds us of is this: we're not as intellectually honest as we think we are. Sometimes we lack intellectual integrity. And sometimes we say things like, I don't believe in Christianity because I don't think it's true, when what we really should say is the people around me don't accept it and it would take away some pleasure from my life, and so I just don't like it. That is far more intellectually honest. There's more integrity in that approach than the other. I meet people all the time who say, I don't think Christianity is true, I think it's false. And if I were to drill down more, we would find out that it's simply that they don't like it. That it would challenge their community, challenge their tribe, or it would challenge their pleasure. It's far more intellectually honest to say something like this: you know what, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I do know that I don't like it. I don't want it to be true. At least that's honest. At least there's integrity in that reason. So sometimes people reject Christianity pretending it's an intellectual reason when really it's an emotional one, when really they are post-truth people to begin with. And unfortunately, it's disguised as intellectual integrity or an intellectual reason, but it's just not. It's far easier, it's far more convenient, it's far more expedient to put up an intellectual reason for rejecting Christianity than it is to talk about why you don't like it or don't want it to be true. Now, this is not a new approach. A few thousand years ago, there was a man that was very influential in Jesus' life who had a very similar approach. His name is Pontius Pilate. And if you grew up in a church for any length of time, you probably grew up reciting his name. It was part of a creed in the church I spent a little time with in my youth. And so I've heard a lot about Pontius Pilate. I want to read to you his moment in the crucifixion narrative of Jesus. In the book of John, again, or in John all day today, we read this. Pilate then went back inside the palace. He summoned Jesus and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" So Jesus is on trial, and Pilate asks him a question, and Pilate's about to reveal his cards. He is a post-truth person through and through. "Is that your own idea?" Jesus asked, "or did others talk to you about me?" "Am I a Jew?" Pilate replied. "Your own people and chief priests handed you over to me. What is it that you have done?" So Pontius Pilate is this ruler that's influential. He's his authority in this Greco-Roman world about what's going to happen with Jesus as he's on trial. "What is it you have done?" Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jewish leaders. But now my kingdom is from another place." And look what Pilate says. He's smart. He says, "You are a king then." So Jesus is on trial for a couple things. To the Jewish people, it was claiming to be God. For the Roman people, it was claiming to be a king. And so Pilate says, so you are one of those. You are a king. Jesus answered, you say that I'm a king. In fact, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. I entered into the world to show people what true life actually is. Remember, he's already said he is the way, the truth, and the life. So he says, I'm here to stand for truth. I'm here to teach truth. I'm here to testify truth. I am truth. I speak facts. I am fact. And look at what Pilate says. Jesus says this, everyone on the side of truth listens to me. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. If truth matters to you, if you're going to follow it wherever it leads, it's going to cause you to side with Jesus. Here's Pilate's answer, verse 38. Well, what is truth? What is truth? Retorted Pilate. It's a question that I've been asked many, many times, a question that is still asked today, over 2,000 years later. With this, he went out again to the Jews gathered there and said, I find no basis for a charge against him, but it's your custom for me to release to you one prisoner at the time of the Passover. Do you want me to release the king of the Jews? And they shouted back, no, not him. Give us Barabbas. Man, another message for a whole nother day. Now, Barabbas had taken part in an uprising. What is truth? This is the question that Pilate is famously known for. Was he a person who wanted to know the facts and follow truth wherever it would lead, or was he a skeptic that was trying to doubt the existence of truth? I think it's that one. And we need to understand something about Pilate if we want to understand something about ourselves, because he represented the very modern view that there is no truth. It's all subjective. It's all up to the individual person. I think he represents that view. And Pilate, in order to keep the people happy and the authority with him, and to keep his pleasure as the one who sat as a ruler, it was far easier for him, more convenient and expedient to doubt truth than to deal with the truth head on. He was an ancient person who was a post-truth person. This is who Pilate is. For the sake of keeping his approval with people and keeping his pleasure and power as ruler, it was far easier for him to pretend that truth didn't exist and put off that worldview. If I can put out that worldview that there is no truth, he could keep his power rather than dealing with the facts head on. And there is a name for this. The name for this is this. He had a confirmation bias. I want to share with you what a confirmation bias is, because in a post-truth world, it is the backbone of thought. A confirmation bias is this. It's accepting a claim because you want it to be true, or rejecting a claim because you don't want it to be true. See, in a post-truth culture, we believe things because we want to believe them. And we don't believe things because we just don't want to believe them. If truth doesn't matter, we are simply left with emotional appeals to things we would prefer. And so it's confirmation bias that's behind so much of what people believe in a post-truth culture. Well, who affects what people want to be true? Their friends, their tribes, their influencers, their emotions, their pleasure, their passion. I'm wondering if confirmation bias could exist in you, for why you accept the things you accept and why you reject the things you reject. Perhaps you have beliefs about how people should live and who people should sleep with and how people should spend their money that simply come from a confirmation bias of what you like and really are not connected to facts, evidence, or truth as a whole. There are two authors that have said a couple things that really stand out to me. One is the author, American-Canadian economist. He says this: faced with a choice between changing one's mind, which is very hard to do, faced with a choice between changing one's mind and proving that there's no need to do so, proving that the beliefs I have are already right, look what he says. Almost everyone gets busy with the proof. Confirmation bias says, this is what I want to believe, so I'm going to find all the information I can that already supports what I believe. Look at what Tolstoy says. I don't know if you know Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy, famous author, says, the most difficult subjects can be explained to the most slow-witted man if he has not formed any idea of them already. When someone's humble and open to being wrong and open to new information and new facts, the most complicated things can be explained to them regardless of IQ because they're open. But look what he says. But the simplest thing cannot be made clear to the most intelligent man if he is firmly persuaded that he knows already, without a shadow of a doubt, what is laid before him. Do you know the best way to know that your beliefs are true? Is to be open to the fact that your beliefs could be false. If you are open to being proven wrong, there is a good chance that you will arrive at what is actually right. So we must check our motives, you guys. We must check our motives before rejecting anything, including Christianity. And if you are listening to this and you've rejected Christianity, I would like you to assess your motives for that rejection. Is it evidence? Is it facts? Is it an alternative explanation to first century facts? Is it an alternative explanation to the beginning of the universe? Or is it that you have a motive, a reason for not wanting it to be true? People often have an emotional reason to reject the truth. We should check our motives before we reject any claim. So I want to say something to you now that might be weird to hear from a pastor, but I want to give you permission to try this. I give you full permission to try and prove Christianity wrong. See, here's what I want you to know. The best way to prove Christianity is true is to try and disprove it. Please, go right ahead, do all that you can, read the books, read the scholarly articles, talk to the experts, talk to some Christians, and try and prove Christianity wrong. I give you permission to do just that. Because if Christianity is true, you won't be able to do so. And if Christianity is false, we should all walk away from it. I meet a lot of people as a pastor. I meet a lot of people who would say, I don't believe in Christianity. When someone's cutting my hair or I'm at the grocery store and they say, what do you do for a living? Sometimes I say, I don't want to tell you because you'll judge me, and we have a good laugh. And then I tell them I'm a pastor. And a lot of times I get met with this response, really? You know what, I'm an agnostic, I'm an atheist, I just don't think it's true. And I begin to ask for reasons why. Why do you believe that? Why have you come to that conclusion? And 99% of the time, if I drill down, it's that they emotionally don't want it to be true. Or something has happened to them that's so painful, and it breaks my heart, and I understand it. But 99% of the time, it is not an intellectual reason. For a lot of people, they are just unwilling to be open to the idea that Christianity could be true, which means they're also unopen to seeing that the worldview that they currently hold could be false. Unfortunately, it's a confirmation bias. It's a preference for pleasure. It's a preference for the people in their life that would cause them to want to reject Christianity. Now, some of you are very astute. You're thinking this, yeah, Eric, but what about you? You're right. I have a confirmation bias too. If Christianity is false, I better get a new job. If Christianity is false, I will stop being a pastor. If Christianity is false, I'm the pastor who walked away from his faith. If Christianity is false, I led people astray. I preached lies. I lived lies. I've wasted 15 years of my life, and you've wasted some of yours. If it's false, I'm embarrassed. If it's false, I look like a fool. If it's false, I'm wrong. So I have a confirmation bias too. And my confirmation bias is to not look at the facts so I can keep all of this. Keep my job, keep my friends, keep our church, keep it going. I have a confirmation bias too. It's unfair of me to ask you to be honest about yours if I'm not going to be honest about mine. So let's be honest together. I could be wrong or you could be wrong. So let's pursue truth together. And we don't have to be afraid of doing that. We don't have to be afraid of opening up the books, looking behind the curtain to see what Christianity is. Because if it's true, like Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Know the truth, you'll know me, and you'll be set free. That we don't have to be worried about doing some deep investigation and having some hard conversations. Now, let me pause right there. Everything that I've said for about the last 10 or 15 minutes kind of assumes that truth exists. But I spent a good bit of time at the beginning of the message saying we live in a culture where people believe it doesn't. So here's what I want you to know. A post-truth culture needs more than airtight arguments to connect to truth. In a post-truth culture, people need an authentic person to connect with first. So, friends might be more important than facts to a post-truth world. In a post-truth world where people matter and community matters and a tribe matters and respect with peers matters, friends might be more important than facts in that world. Do you know how scary it is? Do you know how scary it is to change your beliefs, change your worldview when it means changing your community, changing your relationships? Do you know how scary that is? Of course you do. Many of you know exactly how that feels because you've done it. You've walked away from beliefs of a religion that you once were a part of, and in the process of walking away from those beliefs, you found yourself isolated from the community that you once had. So now you're in a place where your worldview is up in the air, and you're in a place where your community is up in the air. Facts are confusing, friendship is confusing. That is terrifying, and you've lived that out. And you are the most courageous people I have ever met. But listen, this is so important. This is why what we do at SMCC is so incredibly important. We give people a place. You give people a place in South Jordan, St. George, Draper, Lehigh, West Jordan, in the state of Utah. We give people a place where they can belong before they believe, which means they can have a community, a group of people, a group of friends where they are safe, known, and loved so that then they can process their worldview, engage with new facts, and change their minds about God and themselves and what Christianity is altogether. See, if friends are more important than facts in a post-truth world, a church community where people can belong before they believe, where people are loved, is of the utmost importance. It is so valuable. It's gold in people's lives. And so for 23, 24 years, we've done that. We're going to keep doing that because in a post-truth culture, people need to belong before they walk through what it is they don't believe anymore and what it is that they do believe now. Changing your beliefs when you run the risk of being abandoned socially and isolated is so difficult. And for many people, it just doesn't happen. So I want to wrap up this series and wrap up this message with a little homework, a little post-truth challenge for every one of us. For every one of us to help us dive into all that we're talking about today. The homework is very, very simple. Here's what it is. You ready for this? Eat with someone you disagree with. Eat with someone you disagree with. And if you've been listening to this and you've been disagreeing with me, this is your invitation to take me to lunch. See what I did there? When you eat with somebody you disagree with, it's so incredibly valuable. So if you're a skeptic and atheist, take a Christian to lunch. If you're a Christian, find somebody who doesn't believe the way you believe and take them to lunch. Because when you sit around a table and you hear someone's story and you say, pass the salt, and what are you having? You know, and you say, can I pay for that? It takes people who seem very distant, and just through proximity, it brings them closer together. And you'll understand what it's like to believe something different. Abraham Lincoln said it like this. He said, I don't like that man. If I don't like him, I must get to know him better. I love that. What I'm talking about is this. We can be kind first, we can be right second. Kind comes from the word kin, which has the connotation of family. And when you are kind, you are saying, would you walk into our community? I want to treat you like family. You belong here. And in a post-truth world, where friends are more important than facts, this makes a huge difference. And I think this approach of getting around a table, it is a good method for impacting someone's ideas, their worldview, and their beliefs. And by the way, here's what can happen. In that setting, when you're sitting with someone who sees the world differently than you, either they're right and you're wrong, or you're wrong and they're right. And either way, in the pursuit of truth, in that process, you'll be open to being wrong, they'll be open to being wrong, and someone's going to walk away closer to truth because of that conversation. And that is so valuable. And by the way, this is what Jesus did. This is how Jesus lived. In John chapter 1, John gives us some incredible insight into why Jesus showed up. But more than that, how he showed up. Look at this. The word, capital W, word means logos. It means the explanation of reality, the substance of all things, a very powerful way of talking about Jesus. The word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. Tabernacled is the word, showed up into the neighborhood, pitched a tent among people. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. There's our word again. Jesus ate with people, moved into town, created friendship with people, talked with people, had conversations with people who were so incredibly different. He was the friend that they needed, but he was the fact that they needed too. He was grace and he's truth. So the bottom line of today's message is this: Jesus is the answer for the post-truth and the pro-truth people. So I would imagine I'm talking to a lot of people who would say this: Eric, I do want to follow truth wherever it leads. Great. I would call you a pro-truth person. And Jesus says, I am the truth. I am the facts of how this world is. He is the solution for the pro-truth people among us, but he is the solution for post-truth people among us too, because he is the friend that showed up to a desperate and broken world saying, I'm here for you now. Grace and truth. So, Pontius Pilate, he wanted to deconstruct reality. That's what happened when he asked the question, yeah, but what is truth? And when we ask that question, we are doing the same thing. But there's something we need to consider. Reality will deconstruct us in time. Reality will slap us in the face. Reality will bite us. It will get us. And on the day that we take our last breath, we will know we were accountable to a truth. Reality, it will get us. We will be bit by it. We will wake up one day and discover reality got us, and it might happen on the day we just don't wake up. But here's what we can do instead. Let me read the quote. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me, Jesus of Nazareth. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. So as we come to the end of our series, Revolutions, on overthrowing oppressive thinking in our lives, I think that line from Jesus is where I want us to end. Overthrowing oppressive thinking means removing lies from the way that we see the world. Lies from our thinking, because lies will always cost us. And when we believe lies about the way the world is, reality will remind us that we were wrong all along. So what should we do instead? We can side with truth, which means siding with a person, which means siding with a friend. So whether you're a post-truth person or a pro-truth person, Jesus is the solution. Jesus is a friend. Jesus is fact. And that's why we can trust him. Would you pray with me? God, I thank you for a chance to make some observations about the culture that we live in. And perhaps we're a post-truth person, or perhaps we're a pro-truth person, but either way, Jesus, you're the solution. And I pray that we would think deeply about truth, and that would matter to us more than our feelings, more than people. But God, if that's a journey for us, if we're not there yet, I pray we would understand Jesus for who he is, the friend who moved into town, the one who claimed to be truth, the one who claimed to set people free. And I pray that for those of us who are convinced that you are true, that we would begin to engage people who see the world differently. Because if we're going to be a light to a world, we need to understand how that world thinks. And in a post-truth world, people value friendship and authenticity before facts. Help us be those authentic friends this world needs. And I pray that as we do that, we would love people well. And as we do that, we would love you well with our hearts and our minds. Jesus, would you help us through the power of your Holy Spirit continue to overthrow oppressive thinking in our lives so that we can think well, so that we can side with you. We're grateful for this time. It's in your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Eric, for that message, and thank you for trusting us with your time today. If you'd like to get more connected at SMCC, please visit smccutah.org/nextsteps and click the connect button at the top of the page. One of our pastors will connect with you and figure out how we can best serve you. So next weekend is going to be a little bit of a unique weekend here at SMCC. We're going to spend the entire weekend talking about a pretty popular topic across the world right now. deconstructing our faith. Here's a little preview of what to expect here next week across our locations.